Lu Fan's Golden Dragon King transformation was not that straightforward. As Shao Ku's skill enveloped Lu Fan, 4 more Golden Dragon Kings appeared beside him, each possessing 60% of his attributes. Lu Fan's attributes were already extraordinary, even at 60%. Tens of thousands of endurance points were enough to give the 5 National Guardians a headache. Under Lu Fan's control, all 5 Golden Dragon King's clones each found a target among the 5 National Guardians. Though his mirror image project's combat power was not a match against all 9 Hell Demons, their entry into battle made the National Guardians' already difficult situation even worse. Each of them now faced 1 Golden Dragon King and 5 or 6 Hell Demons. Any single one of these opponents would be troublesome enough, let alone 6 or 7 attacking at once. Almost as soon as the battle began, the 5 National Guardians struggled to defend themselves, let alone mount any offense. Lu Fan naturally chose his target to be Jin Zaki, the leader of the 5 National Guardians. After transforming into the Golden Dragon King, Lu Fan could still use many skills, including dragon language magic. Lu Fan's Golden Dragon King form unleashed roar of the Blue Dragon King toward Jin Zaki. This time, instead of a phantom shadow projection, a lightning storm erupted from Lu Fan's mouth, enveloping Jin Zaki. Lightning snakes crackled constantly, bombarding Jin Zaki and dealing significant damage. However, his body seemed to have considerable magic resistance and debuff resistance. Rather than being paralyzed, he used his powerful tentacles to support his body, suddenly leaping away from Lu Fan's dragon language magic's attack range. Lu Fan simply abandoned dragon language magic and charged forward, viciously clawing at Jin Zaki. Jin Zaki had no armor, just tough flesh that could not stop Lu Fan's claws. This strike immediately left a long wound on Jin Zaki, spraying dark green blood that seemed to contain poison. The blood splashed onto Lu Fan, immediately producing white mist, clearly attempting to inflict some kind of debuff. Unfortunately for Jin Zaki, Lu Fan was completely immune to all debuffs. Even if he was not, with his high endurance attribute, this kind of poison could be completely ignored. In pain, Jin Zaki fiercely tried to counterattack. Dozens of tentacles whipping at Lu Fan, each strike carrying considerable attack power. Unfortunately, against Lu Fan's over 150k endurance attribute, it was too insignificant. The tentacles struck Lu Fan's body without causing much pain, let alone injury. Lu Fan's fighting style was particularly brutal. Each time his dragon claw fell, he would tear away several of Jin Zaki's tentacles. Then he spun in midair, his dragon tail sweeping past. The enormous attack power combined with Jade Blessing's dragon key directly smashed into Jin Zaki's massive body. In midair, a diabolical hell demon mirror image projection had been waiting. Its 10 fingers made of blades slashed through the air, activating its blood blade claw strike skill, violently striking at Jin Zaki. Jin Zaki's body was severely wounded in midair. Blood immediately rained down and corroded huge pits of the ground. It was not just the diabolical hell demon, though. The other hell demons were quick to surround, swarming him like mad dogs, making it impossible for him to escape their pincer attack despite his many powerful skills. This was complete domination! At this moment, boast Jin, save me. A strange voice whimpered on the battlefield. Jin Zaki looked back to see the usually quiet black-robed man had been driven into a corner. He was just a mage who needed protection from other players to display his true power. Although fourth profession players like them were very powerful even when alone, in true life or death situations, mages were typically the first to go down. The black-robed man had already used everything at his disposal, all his survival skills, but no one had come to his rescue. After all, everyone now had a Golden Dragon King and 5 or 6 hell demons surrounding them. Who could break free to save him? So now, the black-robed man was completely cornered. Jin Zaki wanted to save him, but how could he possibly do so? In his peripheral vision, a mad hell demon's strike had shattered the black-robed man's lightning barrier. Following this, space distorted above the black-robed man's head. It was Ghost Shadow Strike, a buff diabolical hell demon had used Ghost Walk to approach and raised its blade fingers. The diabolical hell demon's blade fingers fell, trailed with an eerie energy as it struck the black-robed man. As just a mage, how could he possibly withstand the diabolical hell demon's Ghost Walk's attack buff and Ghost Shadow Strike's multi-hit? With this one strike, the black-robed man folded. With continuous squelch sounds, the diabolical hell demon's blade fingers directly shredded the black-robed man, turning him into a bloody mess. Inside Eternal Guardian, seeing a player get killed for the first time, Han-K nearly vomited. As for the other girls, though they still found it disgusting, they were fine. As for murder, what difference was there between these people and pigs? If they were going to kill others, even going so far as to mutilate their corpses, it was fair game! With their power and influence, who was going to help bring justice against them? This was the only equalizer. One of the 5 National Guardians had already died. As for the others, their deaths under this siege was just a matter of time. The power Lu Fan displayed far exceeded Jin Zaki's imagination. Jin Zaki understood very clearly that this boy before him was already beyond his ability to handle. I have to escape! In fear, Jin Zaki was wise. He immediately used several tentacles to pierce the air and started to create a transport array. Though his body was huge, it was like an octopus, bondless and flexible. Although the transport array was very small for his body, he could still squeeze himself through it. Seeing this, Lu Fan just smiled. I want to run. Do you think that just by stepping into a transport array, it means you'll survive? How cute! Lu Fan had been waiting for this moment. The moment of giving Jin Zaki hope before plunging him into complete despair. The slowly forming dragon domain fully activated with a single thought from Lu Fan, completely sealing this whole space. Now, with dragon domain active, any means of escape was just a mere fantasy. Sullivan, okay. The nationalist sentiment here was overblown. There was killing others just because of their country and justifying it. Well, I'm going to just change it from now on. I saw how in the NU reviews, people seem to dislike this kind of thing. I personally think such over-the-top nationalist sentiments are quite dumb, so might as well just change it. The transport array created by Jin Zaki lost its connection to the targeted coordinates and immediately lost its effect. Its light soon dimming before shattering. His body, which had already partially entered the array, was destroyed in the spatial turbulence due to the array's failure, turning into paste and dispersing along with the transport array. Jin Zaki cried out in pain, falling to the ground with countless tentacles writhing. He was clearly in great agony. After his transformation, his self-healing was extremely strong, with new flesh was growing visibly at the sliced-off parts of his body. The wounds would likely heal completely soon enough. However, what Jin Zaki needed was not to heal his wounds, but to escape from Lu Fan. I as an Abyss Parasite Master with the power to return to the Abyss at any time. Why can't I use my transport array skill right now of all times? Jin Zaki was now finally given a moment to look around him. He discovered that he and the others had somehow been pulled into a strange place. They were no longer at the entrance of the Death Desert Ocean Dungeon instance. Here, a mysterious power seemed to cut off all connections to the outside world. Even items like random teleport scrolls and teleportation scrolls in Jin Zaki's inventory had all lost effect. Not only that, as everyone was truly pulled into this domain, Jin Zaki clearly felt his attributes decrease by half. Looking at the other 3 of the 5 National Guardians, they were in the same situation. Originally, they could barely hold on under the siege. But now, with their attributes halved, how could they possibly be opponents for the Hell Demons? Screams rose one after another. The old woman was caught by the sturdy Hell Demon, whose body firmly wrapped around her. It soon used its countless appendages to slice her into strips of meat, which led to an incredibly tragic end. The drunkard met the same fate. He was the one who had killed the Mad Hell Demon years ago. Now, he received special treatment from the Mad Hell Demon. Among the Hell Demons surrounding him, there were 2 Mad Hell Demons, and one was the original. The mad hell demon's attacks were extremely frenzied, swinging its iron mace so fast that even after images could not be seen. The drunkard's mechanical bird should have been an extra equipment, similar to the flying Dragon King's bone wings. Though it could provide some ability to fly, it could not possibly withstand such abuse. Under the mad hell demon's continuous attacks, this mechanical bird was finally shattered and the drunkard fell from mid-air. The original mad hell demon let out a delighted roar, mercilessly swinging its iron mace with a predictable result. Of the 5 national guardians, only the burly man and Jin Zaki were still desperately holding on. Though the burly man was fierce, he was now forced to use his profession's divine skill, trading his life force for high attributes just to barely survive. However, his death was only a matter of time. Watching his former comrades die without any power to resist, Jin Zaki felt a fear he had not experienced in decades rise from the depths of his heart. He never would have imagined that this fear would come from a second profession boy much younger than him. A boom! With a thunderous sound, Lu Fan descended from the sky, stepping on Jin Zaki's head, which was a giant eyeball, pinning him to the ground. Jin Zaki could clearly feel that while his and others' attributes had weakened, Lu Fan's attributes had greatly increased in this domain. His eyeball turned with difficulty. Using his skill, he could see that Lu Fan's attributes had indeed increased by 50%, with his endurance attribute now easily exceeding 200k. Hey, what terrifying attributes! They must be approaching the threshold of divinity! Lu Fan could naturally sense Jin Zaki checking his attributes. Since he had transformed into the Golden Dragon King, his every breath contained dragon ki. In what seemed to be a cold laugh, he spoke in a human voice. Have you seen my attributes? When I said I would slaughter 10,000 of your people, at that time, were you not mocking me for daydreaming? With that, Lu Fan's foot pressed down hard, his giant dragon claw directly crushing Jin Zaki's eyeball. Jin Zaki's body writhed violently in pain again. Countless tentacles whipped toward Lu Fan, creating explosive sounds as they struck his body, showing considerable power. Unfortunately, against Lu Fan's nearly divine endurance attribute, these attacks could barely penetrate his defenses. Lu Fan, I have to admit I've underestimated you. Well, the victor becomes king, the defeated an outlaw. If you want to kill me, then do it. Jin Zaki's voice came from among the tentacles, while these tentacles continued to frantically attack Lu Fan. Though not in pain, Lu Fan was irritated by this. His dragon claws slashed repeatedly, tearing apart the tentacles section by section, causing fluid to spray everywhere. Lu Fan beat his wings, flying away from Jin Zaki's side while saying, "You think dying ends everything? No, far from it. You are all called the 5 National Guardians. Are the 5 of you proud of your status? I hear your descendants all have noble status. So, if after your deaths, everyone in extremistis country despises you, despises your descendants, can you rest in peace?" These words made Jin Zaki suddenly panic, his tentacles writhing more frantically. "What are you planning to do?" Lu Fan replied with a cold laugh. "Why bother explaining? After your death, your eyes will personally see what I'm going to do. Attack!" At Lu Fan's command, the 9 hell demons swarmed forward, viciously tearing at Jin Zaki. Nearby, the burly man could no longer hold on, being pinned to the ground by a hell demon's spear, dying without another breath. As for Jin Zaki, his situation was special. He had extremely strong vitality and was extremely tenacious. Even with his body torn apart by the hell demons, his tentacles had not lost their vitality. They were constantly trying to regenerate. However, Lu Fan was not anxious. He does not believe there was something unkillable in this world. Not when they were alive. Even Xiao Kui, with her nearly infinite vitality, could be killed, let alone Jin Zaki. Besides, within the dragon domain, Jin Zaki would not be able to escape. No matter how tenacious his vitality, death was just a matter of time. Lu Fan had Tao Shaman use her skill to wash off Jin Zaki's blood from his body before returning to his human form. During this time, Jin Zaki's vitality continued to drain away, Finally, those tentacles completely lost their vitality, leaving only a mess everywhere. Hankei could not bear to look at this. She turned her head away, not daring to look. Not just her, even people like Jian Ying found it difficult to watch. After all, Lu Fan's methods were indeed too brutal. The 5 National Guardians did not just lack intact bodies, not even a complete limb was left. In this regard, this was because they had truly angered Lu Fan. As for the ones that did the finishing blow, they were the original hell demons who had deep-seated grudges against the 5 National Guardians. With so much ill will towards the other, such a scene had occurred, a scene that was normal to be difficult to accept. However, this was only temporary. Lu Fan had that one fallen corpse Holy Dragon King activate fallen corpse control. He soon spread out purplish, black mist to envelop the corpses of Jin Zaki and the others. Soon, these scattered flesh pieces reassembled, restoring back to normal. As for the gory sight on the floor, that was also gone. Now, Jin Zaki and the others stood before Lu Fan and his group as though they had come back to life. It was only now that they had become his fallen corpse puppets, completely obedient to Lu Fan's commands. This was Lu Fan's first time using fallen corpse control on humans. He had never used it before. Firstly, because he looked down on Charles and the others' combat power, and secondly, controlling human corpses did not sit well with him. After all, mage-type hidden professions like necromancer were generally rejected by the common man. However, right now, Lu Fan no longer cared about ethics and morality. Moreover, the 5 National Guardians who were all 4th profession players. Lu Fan could see that all 5's powers exceeded level 95, with Jin Zaki even reaching level 97. Even among 4th profession players, they were considered extremely powerful. These 5 had killed so many of his people. Lu Fan naturally would not let them rest in peace after death. In fact, he plans to enslave them as fallen corpse puppets until they die as cannon fodder in battle. Jian Ying and the others naturally already knew about the fallen corpse Holy Dragon King's ability to turn people into fallen corpse puppets. So, they were not surprised by the current situation. The 5 National Guardians had become fallen corpse puppets like the 9 hell demons. Thus, they knew these 5 were no longer a threat. As for Xiao Kui, she dispelled Eternal Guardian and returned to her infant form, flying to Lu Fan's side. When the other girls came forward, they were quick to ask Lu Fan what they planned to do now. With the 5 National Guardians dead, the anger in Lu Fan's heart had dissipated somewhat. However, his hatred for them, for Extremistis country, had not decreased. After all, it was clear that it was not only these 5 that acted against him, but rather the whole country. He thought silently for a while with a cold expression and then said, Jin Zaki is Jin Cheng'en's father. He must have put considerable thought into leading the 5 National Guardians to kill me. Since we've just come out of the dungeon instance and don't fully understand the current situation, I think we should find some informed personnel and learn about the situation first. Though Jin Zaki and the others are dead, there should be plenty of guards from Extremistis country nearby. The other girls nodded, feeling what Lu Fan said made sense. Qin Chu worriedly and timidly stated, when we came out of the dungeon instance, I noticed that the transport array back to Dragon Capital University had been destroyed. Lu Fan, are we now trapped here in Extremistis country? If there are their guards nearby, it won't be easy for us to return. Right now, we are stuck here, thousands of kilometers away from home. Lu Fan smiled and waved his hand. Yeah, I noticed that too. Since Jin Zaki wants to kill me, he would naturally cut off all means of escape back to Dragon Country. By destroying the transport array, we're currently isolated here. Isn't that exactly what he wanted to see? After a pause, Lu Fan gave a cold laugh. At the same time, right now, this is also what I had hoped for. Fine then, Extremistis country, since you are so hospitable and want to keep us here, I'll go along with you. But I believe before long you will start kneeling and begging for me to return. Lu Fan already had a complete plan in mind. Jian Ying and the others did not understand what Lu Fan was thinking. However, at this moment, he was the only one with a plan, so they simply decided to follow him. With the 5 national guardians dead, Lu Fan prepared to formally implement his plan. But first, he had Xiao Kui send everyone out of the dragon domain. Meanwhile, at the entrance of the Death Desert Ocean Dungeon instance, Li Tai had brought over 10 people from the God Destroyer Legion. There, they saw traces left behind from Lu Fan's battle with the 5 national guardians. Seeing the ground riddled with holes, one could imagine how intense the battle must have been. Even Li Tai, a level 85 third profession player, drew in a sharp breath, praising the Dragon Country's hero to be truly extraordinary. Hey, if we had sent men from the God Destroyer Legion to kill him, we would have had to pay an extremely heavy price. But why can we only see traces left behind by the aftermath of their battle? But no one here. Li Tai had come here after receiving Jin Zaki's orders to inform Jin Zaki and the others about Tu Jing and Elder Han. Those two were going to have their men cross the border into extremist country to search for Lu Fan. Halfway here, Li Tai had heard the sounds of an intense battle. Yet, when Li Tai reached the site, no one was here, not even a corpse. This left Li Tai very confused about what had happened. Could it be that His Majesty King Jin has already killed them and ground their bones to dust, leaving no corpse behind? That must be it. Li Tai quickly came to that conclusion. After all, in his view, with all 5 national guardians attacking, Lu Fan could not possibly have survived. Unable to find Jin Zaki and the others here, Li Tai decided to immediately return to his barracks and report the situation to Jin Zaki through their communication item. But just as Li Tai was about to leave, he suddenly felt a mysterious space fluctuation here, as if a transport array had opened somewhere. No transport array appeared in the surroundings. However, after the space in front of Li Tai distorted, 5 figures appeared stiffly in the clearing. Naturally, they were the 5 national guardians who had become fallen corpse puppets. Seeing Jin Zaki and the others, Li Tai was shocked. Without pondering why these 5 had appeared so strangely, he hurriedly knelt on one knee. "Greetings, Your Majesty, King Jin?" Well, the others also did the same, kneeling and paying their respects. Behind them were Lu Fan and the others who had also returned from the dragon domain. Han Ke and the others were startled, after all. They had just been transported back from the dragon domain when suddenly a group of people from extremist country knelt before them. Even though their backs were turned, it still caught them off guard. Flustered, Han Ke and the others made some noise, which attracted the attention of Li Tai's group. Li Tai turned his head and was shocked to find Lu Fan and the others standing perfectly fine behind him. He instinctively got up from the ground with his men and drew the long sword at his waist. "How are you still alive?" Li Tai's eyes widened. Though he knew Lu Fan was formidable, he was not afraid. After all, the 5 national guardians were standing behind him. Lu Fan had come out of the dragon domain, specifically looking for potential targets from extremist country to capture and question. Now that someone had delivered themselves to his doorstep, Lu Fan was naturally pleased. Moreover, from Li Tai's armor, he was clearly of the God Destroyer Legion and was someone high on the totem pole who knew many things. Naturally, he became Lu Fan's target for capture. "Of course, we're still alive." Lu Fan smiled coldly, and as soon as he finished speaking, tentacles emerged from Jin Zaki's cloak, shooting like lightning into the bodies of the soldiers beside Li Tai. Though these soldiers were elite, they were just third-profession players. How could they possibly withstand Jin Zaki's attack? Everyone was instantly killed by the tentacles, holes appearing in their heads. Such a turn of events startled Li Tai. He was frozen in place. He felt under attack from all sides. Right now, he did not know where to point his blade. He just looked incredulously at Jin Zaki, asking as though pleading, "Your Majesty, what is the meaning of this?" "You still think he's your King Jin?" Lu Fan shook his head with a chuckle, pitying the person for being too foolish. Hearing Lu Fan's mocking voice, Li Tai gradually began to notice. Jin Zaki and the black-robed figure had their faces concealed by robes and cloaks. Their features were mostly hidden. However, for the other three, they showed their true faces. However, their complexion did not seem human. It was purple-blue, with stiff expressions with no emotion in them. "What in the world is going on?" Li Tai was completely taken aback. At this moment, the burly man expressionlessly approached him. Wielding his giant axe, he was clearly intending to attack. Li Tai naturally was not willing to wait for death. He immediately moved to resist. Unfortunately, his combat power was far too inferior compared to the burly man. After a few moves, Li Tai was overwhelmed by the vast difference in strength. His sword-wielding right arm got cut off by the axe, and he got kicked to the ground. Crack! The giant axe fell toward his head. However, the axe only embedded itself in the ground at an angle, axe blade barely touching Li Tai's neck. In fact, the burly man held the axe handle, not letting it fall to continue, and cut off Li Tai's head. Li Tai endured the intense agony of losing his arm. Yet, he dared not move. He could clearly feel something sharp pressed against his neck. He knew any suspicious move would be met with his decapitation. Lu Fan walked forward, crouched down, and casually removed the badge from Li Tai's chest. The God Destroyer Legion's badge was entirely different from the Griffin Legion's medal. They did not use gold, silver, bronze, or iron to represent their rank. Lu Fan was not clear what rank the other party was, but could confirm he was definitely different from the person who had just died. Someone who was much higher in rank. Lu Fan casually tossed aside the badge in his hand, no longer bothering to examine it. Instead, he directly asked, "Who are you? What is your relationship with Jin Zaki? And what is your mission?" Li Tai glared viciously at Lu Fan, gritting his teeth without speaking. "Heh, quite stubborn, eh?" Lu Fan smiled, standing up, the ring of resentment in his hand emanating a slight chill. Soon, a surge of resentment flew from the ring, infusing into the burly man. The burly man received Lu Fan's order and raised the giant axe, letting it fall. This time, Li Tai had chopped another arm off. At the same time, the resentment aura on the burly man began to take effect, causing numerous debuffs to appear on Li Tai. These debuffs were undoubtedly a form of torture for a person. Combined with losing both arms, the layered pain made Li Tai continuously wail while he rolled on the ground, nearly breaking down. The Ring of Resentment was only a level 15 gold-grade equipment. Lu Fan actually had the chance to get a better ring at the prosperous Heaven Auction House to replace it. However, he did not do so because the Resentment Aura skill was too useful to replace. Usually, Lu Fan relied on his pet dragons to directly steamroll through everything. He did not need the various debuff effects provided by Resentment Aura. But now, wanting to torture Li Tai rather than killing him directly, Resentment Aura truly shined. It was absolutely the most useful skill in his arsenal for this kind of situation. Lu Fan stood with hands behind his back, watching Li Tai rolling on the ground as he calmly said, "You now have almost every normal debuff on you. Poisoned, weakness, bleeding, stun, frenzy, and so much more. These debuffs would be fatal even for ordinary people, let alone you who is already severely injured. Not to mention any other effects. Just the bleeding effect alone is more than enough to take your life. Of course, death will be very slow. So slow you'll want to die but can't. After all, my pet dragon has a skill called Spring of Life. With its fooling effect, I can make sure your health points remain full at all times, full to experience the true pain of all those debuffs." After describing what would happen, Lu Fan snapped his fingers to showcase what he meant. Beside him, Xiao Qiu casted Spring of Life on Li Tai, fueling him with energy. Spring of Life was definitely an amazing buff for others. But for Li Tai, it was just fueling the flames! Spring of Life did not clear his debuffs, but it did prolong his life. This was true torture, one where he sought death but was unable to die. Li Tai understood his body's condition best, and naturally knew that if Lu Fan wished, he could truly trap him in never-ending suffering, one which he would be unable to escape. At this point, Lu Fan continued speaking. "Now then, I want to ask you several questions. If you answer honestly, my pet dragon also has a skill to clear all debuffs, which can free you from your suffering. Do know that I've already killed your 5 national guardians. A nobody like you isn't really worth my attention. If you're willing to cooperate and tell me everything you know, I can consider letting you go. Letai struggled to look at the 5 national guardians, discovering something was really off about them and realizing Lu Fan was not lying to him. Though incredulous that the 5 national guardians would die at Lu Fan's hands, the facts were there. He had no choice but to believe him. Therefore, although Li Tai was a soldier trained by extremist country, he knew there was no hope to change the situation and chose to submit. I am willing to cooperate. I'll tell you whatever you ask, as long as you spare me. Li Tai pleaded through gritted teeth. Lu Fan nodded with satisfaction, smiling. Good. Now then, let me ask you, who are you? I am Legion General Li Tai of the God Destroyer Legion of Extremist country. Li Tai obediently answered Lu Fan's questions, not daring to conceal anything. The God Destroyer Legion was actually internationally renowned, and Lu Fan had heard of it before. He naturally knew that it was one of Extremist country's 3 ace military units. He just did not expect that a Legion General of such a top unit would be so easily taken down. However, to be fair, it was not that Li Tai was weak. Rather, it was just that Lu Fan was too monstrous. After one question and another, Lu Fan basically understood his current situation. Jin Zaki, you really thought highly of me. You not only had the 5 national guardians come, but the God Slayer and God Destroyer legions as well. These are 2 ace military units we are talking about. To think that they are all stationed nearby, with 24 camps around this place, surrounding me like an iron net. Meanwhile, the God Annihilator Legion was also dispatched to Extremistis country's borders to intercept reinforcements coming from Dragon Country. If Jin Zaki was even more ruthless, would he not bring over 100 million Extremistis country civilians to surround and kill me? Still, having that many soldiers come is also a good thing. However many come, that is the number I'll kill. That's basically how it is. Li Tai was tortured by the various debuffs until he was crying and drooling. Everything I did was under King Jin's orders. Having the soldiers surround and kill those in your camp was not what I wanted to do. I can personally swear to heaven, I do not have a drop of blood of your people on my hands. Please, quickly clear these debuffs on me. Lu Fan would never believe his claim about not having those people's blood on his hands. However, everything else he said likely had a high degree of credibility. Even the locations of the 24 military camps Lu Fan had extracted from him. At this moment, Jian Ying returned from nearby, telling Lu Fan, "Among the corpses, Teacher Guhan doesn't seem to be there. Seems like he was telling the truth. Teacher Guhan must have really used a random teleport scroll to escape from here." Da Lu Fan nodded to show he understood. Li Tai quickly asked, "See, I told you I wasn't lying. I answered all your questions with truths. So, could you please spare me?" "Ah, of course," Lu Fan nodded, then waved his hand while saying, "I'll send you on your way." Li Tai froze after understanding Lu Fan's meaning of "on your way." He became both anxious and angry. "What do you mean? From the very beginning you never planned to spare me, did you?" "You never planned to keep your word." Lu Fan smiled. "No, I definitely keep to my word very well. But have you ever heard of anyone keeping their word to dogs? In your case, when I said, spare you, I just meant sparing you from further torture. For killing those people, innocent civilians, I will make you and your people pay back 10,000-fold. As Lu Fan's words fell, before Li Tai could speak again, the burly man completely ended his life. Lu Fan did not want to leave behind a corpse, which might make his auntie feel uncomfortable. So he used magma burst and had the flames turn his body to ash. After handling everything, Hanki took the initiative to ask, "Fanner, what should we do next? If what he said is true, then we're surrounded by soldiers who want to kill us, and they're all elites from the God Slayer and God Destroyer legions. Seeing his auntie's worried expression, Lu Fan could not help but smile, trying to comfort her. "Auntie, is this situation really as scary as you are phrasing it out to be? Are you afraid of them chasing after us?" "Not exactly." Hanki bit her finger, frowning deeply before sighing. "I'm mostly worried because we're thousands of kilometers away from our home. Although you're very strong, being in a foreign country, surrounded by enemies who want our lives, I just feel a bit." Lu Fan could understand his auntie's feelings. This was not their familiar dragon country after all. There were enemies all around them. Even with Lu Fan behind them, sheltering them, they still should not help but feel uneasy. Lu Fan further comforted her. "Don't worry, Auntie. With me here, none of us will come to harm's way. If you feel uneasy because this is not dragon country, then I'll just directly incorporate this area into our territory. How about that?" Lu Fan's words made Hanki burst out laughing. "Yo, can you be more serious?" Lu Fan scratched his head, thinking to himself, "Wait, my tone and expression earlier, did it seem like I was joking?" At this point, Tao Xiaoman also asked Lu Fan what their plan was going forward. Should they hide in the Divine Bone Forest and wait for Dragon Country's rescue, or find a weak point in the enemy's encirclement and break through? The latter would mean directly engaging with extremistist countries pursuing forces in the wilderness. Lu Fan thought for a moment and said, "I think our immediate priority should be to find Teacher Guhan. She used a random teleport scroll to escape from here. So, she isn't dead. But, at the same time, the Divine Bone Forest is a newly discovered area that is great for leveling. Naturally, that means there are numerous high-level monsters there. I'm quite worried about her. If she got teleported there, it would be extremely dangerous for her. If she's still alive, we need to find a way to rescue her from the Divine Bone Forest first. Other things can wait." A Lu Fan suggestion received unanimous agreement from everyone. But the problem was how to find Guhan. After all, the Divine Bone Forest was vast and located in the wilderness. There was no way to contact her. Finding someone here was like searching for a needle in a haystack. However, Lu Fan was not too worried. After all, could not he not use the searching paper dole he obtained from the Death Desert Ocean dungeon instance? Lu Fan had Xiao Kui use the additional skill from Devar and assimilate searching paper dole. He had her set Guhan as the search target. With a flash of glowing emerald green mist, a palm-sized paper dole appeared from thin air. Though ethereal, it was a very obvious figure. After appearing, the paper dole flew in a single direction. However, it stopped again 20 meters from Lu Fan's group, seemingly waiting for them to follow it to find Guhan. This was Lu Fan's first time using this skill. I have to say, this skill sure is quite interesting. Let's go. Since this skill works, it means Teacher Guhan is still alive. We need to quickly find her. Lu Fan called back to everyone. After they responded, they quickly followed behind him. However, while Lu Fan had left the site, the fallen corpse Holy Dragon King did not follow him. Instead, he opened up his puppet sub, space at where he stood, from which emerged 9 hell demons one after another again, this time with monsters from the 9 hell demons' army. After these monsters appeared, they formed into groups of hundreds and began dispersing in all directions like a flood. Besides the 9 hell demons' army, the 5 national guardians were also mixed in among them, following this monster tide. As for Lu Fan, he acted as if he did not see any of this. This was all part of his plan. He was going to have his fallen corpse puppet army complete their task. After all, he does not really need them with him. He and his pet dragons were more than enough to handle the monsters in the Divine Bone Forest. Chin Q noticed this, though. Driven by curiosity, she quickened her pace to Lu Fan's side and asked, "Lu Fan, why did you release so many fallen corpse puppets? What are they going to do?" "What else?" Lu Fan grinned. "Naturally, I'm going to make them pay blood for blood." 50 kilometers from the Death Desert Ocean, A not too large military camp was discreetly stationed there. This camp had over 200 people, which was a bit larger in scale compared to other normal camps. After all, this camp was one of the 2 main camps among the 24. It was a command center personally overseen by the God-Destroyer Legion General Li Tai. At this time, Li Tai had been gone for a long time and had not yet returned. Thus, everything in the camp seemed to be in perfect order. There were over 200 soldiers from the God-Destroyer Legion, all dutifully performing their duties, waiting for Li Tai to issue their next orders. In the command center, the God-Destroyer Legion's adjutant hung up the phone and helplessly complained to a subordinate beside him. Lord Jin is really too cautious. It's just Dragon Country's Han Faibai and Tu Jing saying they're sending reinforcements. In this short span of time, he had already called us 3 times. All 3 times, he just keeps asking if Legion General Li has delivered the message to His Majesty. King Jin? Dragon Country is more than 1,000 kilometers from us. There is so much unexplored wilderness and their water bodies in between us. Even for 4th profession players, coming here wouldn't be easy. By the time their reinforcements arrive, King Jin would have long since killed that Dragon Country brat. Ha! The subordinate beside him chuckled and lowered his voice. I heard His Majesty. King Jin had made Lord Jin take responsibility for his failures in the national trial. If anything goes wrong with today's operation, King Jin will certainly severely punish him. I believe this is why he's so nervous. Actually, in my opinion, Lord Jin can completely put his mind at ease. With King Jin and the 4 other national guardians from extremistis country taking action together, how could they possibly fail to kill a 2nd profession player? A's for reinforcements from Dragon Country. I actually hope they arrive sooner. This way, our God Annihilator Legion will have a chance to kill the reinforcements sent by those 2 jinx. Once they accomplish this feat, it would prove our 3 ace military units' might to the world. Haha, you make a good point. The adjutant's confidence suddenly surged. Everyone says our extremistis country's 3 ace military units are several levels below Dragon Country's. I'm already sick and tired of hearing that. For example, Dragon Country's Griffin Legion. What's so great about them? They just have 1 griffin each. Without their griffins, they're nothing. In fact, I really hope Tu Jing sends his Griffin Legion as reinforcements. If they do, we can justifiably kill their men, steal their griffins, and make our own Griffin Legion. I wonder if Tu Jing would die of rage when he sees that. With these words, everyone in the command center burst into laughter. Being chosen as one of extremistis country's 3 ace military units, everyone present had their own pride. To them, it was natural for them to look down on the Griffin Legion and think their God-Destroyer Legion could crush anything. To be fair, this was a symptom of an echo chamber, one which reality had not hit since they had never truly experienced the pain of war firsthand. Just as everyone was joking around in good spirits, suddenly, a transport array appeared in the middle of this large command center. This change made everyone tense up,